So rounding is just a form of mathematical estimation, and it's one of the most commonly used methods for estimating. So when you guys are trying to round something, you first want to find the digit in the place that you're rounding to. So it's important to know what, again, your place values are. But once you find what that digit is, you look at the digit directly to the right of it to see where you're rounding to. You will either round up a number value or you'll keep the number value right where it is. So hopefully some of you guys remember this, but when the digit to the right of the one you're rounding to is 5 through 9, then you're going to round up. So the digit in the place you're rounding to rounds up by one value. So you guys would use zeros as placeholders where necessary. If the digit to the right of the one you're rounding to is 0 through 4, so less than 5, you guys keep your digit the same. So it stays put. So let's do some examples of figuring out how to round certain values. So it says round 400 or 547 to the nearest 10. So I tried to copy the chart kind of from up above there. So we sort of have our place values. So it says round 547 to the nearest 10. So first we need to know where the 10 is. So that's that spot. So we're rounding to that spot, but we need to know if the 4 is staying or if we're going to round up to a 5. So if we are rounding to the 4, we need to look at the 7. So if it's a 7, is it going to stay the same, or is that 7 going to bump that 4 up? And it's going to bump it up. So we're going to have 500 and now a 5. And what we were talking about is we just use those zeros as placeholders after that number value there. So how about round 3,002 or 32,148 to the nearest 100? So the nearest 100 is that spot right there after the comma. So looking at the 1, is the 4 going to keep it a 1 or bump it up to a 2? It's going to keep it the same. So we're going to keep the 3, 2, 1. And after that will become 0. So we're just rounding to the nearest whatever value it's telling us. So around 918,602 to the nearest 10,000. So 10,000 would be right after the thousands. So that's going to be right here, 10,000. So looking at that, the 8 is going to round that up to a 2. So we're going to have 902 or 920,000. Everything else becomes zeros. We're rounding whatever value we're asked to round to. Everything after it becomes zeros. Round 432,000, or not thousand, 432.509 to the nearest hundredth. So the hundredths is the second spot there. So the 0, is it going to stay 0 or is it going to become a 1? It's going to round up to a 1. So we have 432.510. So round 27.81 to the nearest 10th. So the 10th is the very first spot behind the decimal there. So the 8, is it going to stay an 8? Or is the 1 going to round it up? It's going to keep it an 8. So 27.8. Round 60.528 to the nearest whole number. So the whole number, sometimes we'll also just say whole number instead of the ones. So that's the same thing. So whole number is the same thing as the ones. So that's going to be that guy right before the decimal. So the 0, is it going to stay 0? Or is it going to get bumped up to a 1? The 5 is going to bump it up to a 1. So the nearest whole number would just be 61. All right, why don't you guys try 7 and 8? And we'll go down and look at the word problems here, at the application problems. So it says a video game company sold a total of 75,995 white and black game consoles. So they sold 15,200 black consoles. About how many white consoles did they sell? So your answer should be to the nearest 1,000. So we're going to round 15,200 to the nearest 1,000 since that's what it's asking us about. So 15,200, we're going to look at the 2 and we're going to keep that at a 15. We're not going to round that 5 up. So black consoles, they sold about 15,000. So about how many white consoles did they sell? Well, let's take this guy. So that's the total. And if we round that, the 75,000 is actually going to get rounded up because of that 9 to about 76,000. So to get the number of white consoles sold, all you guys have to do is find the difference. So we're going to take the total number of consoles they sold and subtract that 15,000 from it. So if we're estimating or rounding, 76 minus 15,000 is about 61,000 white consoles. So that's it. Usually it will tell you what to round to, and then you just estimate from there. So how about number 10? A petri dish contained 44,034 bacteria, and a scientist let the bacteria grow until there were 69,781 more of them. So about how many bacteria are there now? So your answer should be to the nearest 1,000 again. So we're rounding to the thousands. So looking at that number right there to see if we're going to round up or keep it the same. So the original number is going to stay about the same, or is going to stay the same. So the original amount was 44,000. And then how many grew after that? 69,781 more. So that's about, if we're rounding, 70,000. So the more that were added, we're going to round 69 up to 70,000. So if you add them up, 70 plus 44 gives you 114,000 total. In that petri dish, after let the initial amount grow. So when you're rounding, just pay attention to what place they're asking you to round to, and this just kind of go from there. Remember, 5 rounds the number up, below 5 keeps it the same.